Good afternoon, everybody. It's 4 p.m. Let's start our event, The Future of PTI in Europe. Thank you that you are gathered here. It's a good time to talk about the future of periodical technical inspection in Europe, because a month ago, Commission introduced and published the proposals of updating the roadworthiness package after the long period. And the focus is to introduce enhanced inspections, including periodical technical inspections for electric vehicles, for ADAS systems, annual inspections for older cars and vans, advanced emission testing methods to detect high-emitting vehicles and reduce fine particle pollution. Furthermore, digital vehicle registration, periodic testing certificates, and protection against odometer tampering, they are also planned. And our speakers will contribute to these proposals. And the first speaker will be Pete Brady, the chairman of EGEA Working Group 2 Diagnostics, also working for Hela Gutman as Public Affairs and Standardized. And he will give us a brief update. What are these proposals about? Floor is yours, Pete. Yeah? Hey, you can sit. Yep. If you want.
I'll stand up.
Okay.
I'll do it better stood up.
I think I also stand.
Good afternoon, everybody. Now that Marcin has pinched half of my presentation, of course, and mentioned all those things, I'm going to talk about what the new legislation is going to be like, how it's shaping up, and what it's going to mean for the PTI organisations. So as Marcin said, the European Commission, there we go, is a proposal to update the PTI regulations. And these updates reflect, obviously, the latest technological advancements and also the latest environmental standards as well. And the focus really is on safer roads, reducing air pollution, and digitalizing vehicle registrations or documentation. Some of the key points, the key elements. There they go. The proposed changes really target unsafe vehicles. So from roadworthiness to safety is where we're progressing to. And that will contribute to reducing crashes and also improve the environmental damage. As you can see here, we've got things like major amendments which will include looking at new vehicles, i.e. that means electric vehicles, and also new systems like ADAS. We're going to have advanced emission testing, which I believe Jordi is going to do. Yeah. Combating fraud, i.e. false odometers, and an annual inspection for vehicles over 10 years old. So that means the increasing of the inspections. Also, digital vehicle registration and testing certificates, and this will contribute to cross-border recognition of those testing certificates. New testing. What's going to be tested? Well, the new PTI amendments focus heavily on the latest vehicle technologies. When we talk about electric vehicles, then we're talking about battery health, high voltage wiring, and software integrity. Advanced driving systems, we're going to be looking at testing the safety systems and also the software integrity and performance of those systems. So let's have a look more detail in electric vehicles. This is going to include things like battery health, which I'm sure you're all aware of already, software and hardware checks, charging system inspections, insulation resistance, meaning testing that insulation, and the charging systems, which is the charge port and the interlock devices, and also the anti-starting systems. When we go on to look at ADAS testing, then we're getting into the realms of things like automatic emergency braking tests, so testing the functionality of that system. Lane departure warning. This is also a compulsory fitted ADAS system to all new vehicles within the EU anyway from June of this year. Adaptive cruise control. We'll look at how that ensures a safe distance and maintaining that distance from vehicles ahead, and also warning of vehicles too close behind. So this means that there are going to have to be tests devised to actually do this. Now, that's something that the new regulation will not address. That's up to all the equipment manufacturers and PTI organizations. So what did this, oh, that was wrong. There's a slide missing somewhere. Wow. Yeah, there's definitely a slide missing. Okay, so there is going to be issues, or let's say obligations on PTI testing centers and how the PTI does that in the future. So when we look at time and cost implications, the PTI with the new technologies and also the requirements are going to take longer depending on the complexity of the vehicle. So you're going to have different time frames for different vehicles. The cost, that may rise as well, and that will also be attributed to the complexity of the vehicle and also the nature of the vehicle, such as passenger cars, light vans, and commercial vehicles. So both of those will have an effect on the PTI. To make a conclusion then, the new amendments will ensure better road safety, reduced emissions, and improve vehicle compliance across the EU. This is the intention of the proposal of the amended regulation. So while new tests and equipments will increase the cost and time for PTIs, they are essential really for keeping up with all the technological advancements we've seen in vehicles today. And these changes will then also improve fraud prevention, not fraud itself, but fraud prevention, and help streamline data exchange across all member states. That's that, I think. Oh, there you go. There's the bit about time and costs. Are they getting these presentations afterwards? No. Does everybody get a copy of the presentations? Will they be? Okay. You're all snapping at the slides. There will be, these presentations will be available after the show. Thank you, Marco. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Pete, for giving us a brief summary of the European Commission proposals. Now we are waiting for the discussion between member states and the European Parliament. It probably will take some time, and then we need to wait also for implementation. But there's still a lot of work for us to do, and we don't know what will be the exact shape of the proposals at the end of the day. Next speaker is George Petelet. He's a Gieg member and also Working Group 2 emission from EGEA, chairman, and he will give us brief information about PN measurement and how is it proposed in the directive, because there is an ongoing discussion about PN measurement based now on the recommendations from 2023, and it's also something new in the proposals, roadside inspection and testing the emissions, and also noise. So floor is yours.
That's it. Well, good afternoon. In 3 words, I guess it's Christmas time already. Why? Well, it's over already. Okay. So, in fact, we are facing the fact that they are merging two directives in one. I mean by this periodical technical inspection on one hand and roadside inspection on the other hand. But you see that on several topics, those topics will impact both roadside inspection and periodical technical inspection. I mean by this, petrol, I mean with the CO measurement, petrol again with the NOx measurement, petrol again with particulate measurement in number, and then for diesel we are talking about NOx and PN. And on top of that, we have also the noise. So, how they have managed that for both PTI and roadside inspection? For petrol car, the major point is the NOx introduction. It's decided, but not that much, because definitely we have to wait the final decision regarding the delegated act in order to be aware about the test procedure, about the threshold, about everything. So it's a wish at that state, and we have to wait for the real definition. Petrol again. During the last year, we were talking about PN measurement focusing on diesel. GRC, they have made some investigation how to manage ourselves in order to measure PN also for petrol car. They have made some tests regarding some test procedure. But again, we will have to wait a delegated act in order to be aware about how we will test that and what might be the threshold. For diesel car, it's also brand new. We are supposed to manage NOx measurement. During the last years, we have made some investigation with CETA. We have made some feedback on that. GRC, they have proposed, I would say, a test procedure. We have different pros and cons regarding this procedure. Anyhow, the reality is there on the screen. Again, PN measurement, we were talking about during the last 4 years, but now it's really, I would say, in the real life, we are able to have a look on the, I would say, the pioneer countries, because Belgium, because Netherlands, because Germany, because Switzerland, they have introduced that during the last 2 years. Now we have good feedback on that, and the feedback are so good that the European Commission has no doubts that we have to move on that direction. Okay? Well, regarding the PN topic, Lauretta will talk about that, so I will shortcut a bit, but you have to be aware that we have everything in terms of definition, in terms of specification, in terms of test procedure, and so on, in order to move on. It's a good success. I mean, during the last years, we were dealing with opacimeter with very low failure rate. Here in Belgium, we have reached sometimes 10% of vehicle. We were missing spare parts, in fact. So, basically, if we are comparing test results between Germany, Netherlands, Switzerland, and so on, they are all saying the same. And one key topic we have to focus on is the mileage. We have a direct relationship between mileage and failure rate. Yeah. An additional topic regarding that is UBD. UBD is totally blind regarding this topic. A new topic coming is noise. They want to in-phase test regarding moped, motorcycle, and so on. But they want also to introduce noise measurement from the roadside point of view. So roadside point of view, what they are expecting. We are facing 240 million of vehicles in Europe. They want to test a third of them yearly. And they want to test a third of them from NOx, from noise, from PN point of view. So it's a real new market for us with a new specification to come. I do not know if this will be part of the final version, we'll see, but it's a major step ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, George. One of the focus on the proposals, of course, it's environmental protection, and George mentioned about PN measurement. And the next speaker, which is Lauretta, Rubino, PhD, CEO of VERT Association. She will explain to us why is it so important to check PN measurement. And she will also told us about DT entire paradox.
Yeah.
Floor is yours.
I think I will stay here. Can you hear me? No? Yes, now yes, I guess. Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Is that okay? Better? Okay, sorry about that. Okay. So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and many thanks for the kind introduction. So my name is Lauretta Rubino. I'm very honored to be here on behalf of the VERT Association that I represent as a CEO. And I will talk a little bit about the particle number emissions and the dirty tail paradox. So the agenda, so first of all, I will just introduce the association, the VERT Association. We are based in Switzerland, and all the work that the association has been doing on particle number emissions. Then I will also focus on why we chose this particle number in order, to go ahead with PTI and so on. Then I will come to the dirty tail phenomena. I will explain what does it mean, dirty tail, both for the diesel and also gasoline vehicle fleet. And then I will make some conclusion and some remarks. So first of all, for people that are not familiar with VERT, VERT is an NGO. It's an international association. We are based in Switzerland. This association was founded far back in 1993. And basically, it was founded when the NEAT, this new Transalpine Railway program, was started. So we have a long tradition, a long know-how on nanoparticle emissions reduction and also the use of particle filters, so DPF and GPF. So VERT, the name stands for Verification of Emissions Reduction Technology. So we are a particle filter testing certification. So, and basically the mission of the association is to reduce nanoparticle from all combustion sources. Oh, okay, finally, I guess you can hear me. Sorry about that. Okay, and so basically we focus on nanoparticle emissions reduction from all sources, not only from combustion sources, and we are also a particle filter test certification. So what we do is we apply the best available technologies to reduce emissions. So as I said, we have over 37 companies joining the association, and we are very strong worldwide. We are also a mutual member of CETA. So I'm just back from the conference last 2 weeks in Istanbul, where there was also a lot of discussion on NPTI. And we organize also international conferences. We have 2 main appointments. One is the VERT Forum, that is usually in March, and the other one is the ETH Nanoparticle Conference that is coming up in June in Zurich. So this is basically what I just said. So we have a very strong scientific network, and we have been working on nanoparticle emissions control since many years. So let's also talk about PN. So PN, why is it so important? Why these very tiny, invisible particles, sub 50 nanometers, are so important? First of all, because they pose a high risk to human health. because they can go deeper into the lung, but not only deeper into the lung, they can also reach our brain, so they can cause quite a lot of damage. And of course, the road transport is one of the major contributors to nanoparticle emissions, above all in very congested area. And several studies have shown that also petrol engines, so not only diesel engines, are responsible of these tiny particles. And in particular, I will show you also how actually petrol engines nanoparticles can be actually more risky than diesel because they are even smaller particles, so they can cause even a higher impact on the health. And they can also contain secondary emissions, in particular referred to PAHs. So regarding the legislation, we are all aware that gasoline particle filters are fitted on GDI vehicles, but not PFI. So I will just show you a little bit the difference between particle size distribution of a diesel exhaust versus a petrol exhaust. Sorry, I cannot point, but if you look on the right-hand side, you have the particle size distribution of a diesel, peaking in the nuclei mode around 80 nanometers, and down you have the petrol size distribution. You see that the peak is a little bit towards the smaller particle size. On the left-hand side, sorry, it's a very busy, I guess, like plot, but I just want to make this point. So GDI, basically with the regulation of Euro 6 in 2017, they have gasoline particle filters, so we drastically reduce particle number emissions, but PFI are not regulated in Europe yet, and as you can see on the top there of the plot, they are responsible of very high particle number emissions. This is not only Europe, but also in Asia and also in the US, where there is no number actually legislation yet. So why we focus on PN? So the association has done a lot of work in this sense, because PN is the best flagship metric for air pollution. First of all, because it dominates the health risk in urban areas, is the most sensitive criteria to adopt, and also because it best characterizes the main contributor of the internal combustion engine, both diesel and petrol. So the target here is to use particle number emissions, so for PTI, and be able to identify the high emitters and also what I call the dirty tail. So I will show you now what do we refer to dirty tail. Just like very simple, it's also a busy slide. Just want to say that VERT has been very active in promoting PN legislation in Europe. It was adopted actually after all the work done by the association far back in 2006. And VERT has been also very active in the new periodical technical inspection. So VERT has been pushing PN emission measurements into the PTI, and also like working within this working group since 2016 to come up with what is used now as a test protocol for the diesel DPF equipped vehicles in Europe. So 4 nations have adopted already. And at the same time, we are also pushing NPTI for the gasoline vehicle fleet, because as I said, not only it's important to reduce particle number emissions from diesel, but also from gasoline. And VERT has been conducting also several studies. I just referred to one in Mexico City, where 400,000 in-use gasoline vehicles were tested. It was a study done in 2018 in collaboration also with the European Commission Joint Research Center, and another study also with the diesel vehicle fleet of 1,000 diesel vehicles in the Zurich area. And what we are doing now is also testing the gasoline vehicle fleet in Switzerland, and I will talk about a little bit of the Horizon Aerosol project and the NPTI testing campaign of 1,000 gasoline vehicle. So this is a slide showing on the left-hand side just the test procedure. We are using an AVL D-test counter. On the right-hand side, we have the particle number emissions as a mean emissions versus the different categories of the vehicle. So we go from Euro 1 to Euro 6. And the red arrows show basically the Euro 6, so the GDI that are equipped with GPF. So if we provide filters, we can immediately reduce emissions. This is what I want to say with this. I'm not going into the details of the test procedure, but we are also in contact with GRC to define what is the best test procedure for NPTI test of gasoline vehicle fleet. So in this particular study, we use two measurements. So high idling, so on one measurement without load, at high idle, so between 2,000 and 3,000 RPM. And the second measurement was done with load by simply using air conditioning. And we have been using the VLD test standalone counter that is based on diffusion charging. So finally, I'll show you what do I refer with dirty tail. So dirty tail is basically what you see, these very high, suddenly exponential particle number emissions. So the red line is basically with load. The blue line is without load, the measurements. And on the right-hand side, you have the distribution, so with mean and the standard deviation. So what does it mean? So very few percentage of the vehicles that were tested are emitting a lot of particle numbers. So by looking and identifying with NPTI these high emitters, we can drastically reduce emissions. And these are the tests and the study that were conducted in the past by VERT. On the left-hand side is the Mexico City study with 400,000 gasoline vehicles. We see again the dirty tail. And on the right-hand side, we have the study conducted in Zurich with the 1,000 diesel vehicle, again, dirty tail. So dirty tail is a phenomenon that we can observe both in the gasoline but also in the diesel vehicle fleet. I don't want to go again into the revision of the roadworthiness package, so the PTI directive. I just want to say that finally, after I think like 10 years, there is a revision and we see particle numbers going forward into the legislation. So summary and some remarks. So definitely NPTI is very important to decrease air pollution in Europe and mitigate the health effects of nanoparticle emissions. And actually we need to apply this not only to diesel, but also to the gasoline vehicle fleet. And the new NPTI investigation that I just showed within the Horizon Aerosol project basically certainly identify the root cause of the high emitters and the dirty tail phenomena. So this dirty tail phenomena observed in both the diesel and gasoline vehicle fleet needs to be taken into account, and we need to find mitigation measures, because by doing so, we immediately reduce particle number emissions in congested urban area. And I would like to just conclude by saying that, of course, electrification will not happen overnight. We are all aware of this. So certainly, gasoline and combustion engines will be around for a while. And definitely, we need to find an immediate low-cost solution to this problem by applying filters to gasoline vehicles and also to identify the dirty tail phenomena. And the last sentence says that clean air and clear mobility is possible. So, and it's not, a privilege, but it has to be a right for all. And with that, I conclude, and I thank you for your kind attention. Yeah. Yes, I can go back. Thank you.
It seems that we need to check PN, and Lauretta just told us why. But the other aspect of PTIs is road safety. And for the road safety, we need effective brakes. The next speaker, which is Jordi Brunet from AFIBA Spain, and also Working Group 6 EGEA chairman, working for VTEC as technical director. He will tell us about current provisions for brake testing and new standards that can be implemented. Floor is yours, Jordi.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for the introduction. So I'm not going to speak about the total brake testing or suspension testing, but only about the efficiency testing, what we are normally doing with brake testers and suspension testers, because the brake testing is very extensive and we don't have time. So how we can change this? Green button.
No, the big one, the big one.
The big one. Okay. So brake testing. What do we have now? Brake testing is one of the main tests we do in PTI. But the PTIs are facing increasing problems of when testing the brakes of the vehicles. Because new technologies like electromechanical brakes, some cases we are using pressure sensors, but sometimes the pressure sensors or the pressure is not available. So it's not easy, and it's increasingly more difficult to test the brakes of the vehicle. Also, in some countries, we test the vehicles fully load, mainly the trucks, but in some cases it's not feasible. So, for instance, a coach or a petrol tank, it's not easy to test it fully load. And extrapolation methods sometimes are not available, for instance, for hydraulic brakes, some of the types of brakes. So, we are here. The new directive, it's not changing a lot regarding the old one on the brake testing, but we have some improvements, or we can think about some improvements of brake testing. So CETA is the PTI organization, the world's organization of PTIs, is working. It has a task force 8, that is working on brake testing. And it's working a new method. It's not a new method, it's already defined, but it's a method called reference values. Reference values is a method that is defined in this ISO 21995. And basically what it says is that at the time of the type approval of the vehicle, the manufacturer has to provide some reference values. It means with reference values, we have to have a certain brake force. The reference values can be anything, can be pressure, brake pressure, but can be any other parameter. So during the PTI, if for a given braking, so for a given braking pressure or the parameter, the brake force is higher than what was recorded during the approval, the homologation, the test is passed. It's as simple as that in principle. So we don't rely anymore on fully loaded vehicles or pressure sensors, but on the reference values. The advantage of this system can be applied to all vehicles where we have these reference values available, but of course, it's not as nice as it seems. Why? First of all, to enable this method, we need some things. What do we need? We need that all these reference values have to be made available during the type approval of the vehicle. So at the time approval, they have to record these reference values and they have to be public. That this is not the case now. And also, during the PTI test, these reference values and the correspondence should be made available to the inspectors, normally through the OBD port or any other port. So at the same time, we are recording the brake tests, the brake forces, we are reading the values. Could be pressure sensor, pedal position, any other parameter. So we are, as usual, have the same problem that normally we face during PTI. We need access to information. So to do the PTI, we need access to this information and to have access to these reference sensors. To these reference values. So this should be guaranteed by the authorities, by the type approval authorities, and has to be made available to the inspection center. So it's a method, it's promising, but we are right now not, I wouldn't say far for the implementation, but we are not there because we need this information from the vehicle manufacturers. Okay, this is in relation to the brake testing, efficiency brake testing. Let's move to suspension, another topic, hot topic. Again, the new draft of the new directive just says one thing or one change on suspension testing. And it's one thing that is very small, but it's important. The past directive, the 2014-45, has a mark saying that the suspension testing or the efficiency, so testing the efficiency of the suspension is not essential. In the new directive, at least in the new draft, this consideration is removed. It means that if it's removed, it means that the suspension testing is essential. We'll see how we'll go on and we'll finish this, but this is what it says in the draft. What's the problem with the suspension testing? The problem is that we have several methods, several limits. Some of them are 40 years old, some of them are proprietary, so relying on calculations not available to public. So for the PTI organizations and for the member states, it's very difficult to establish a suspension method with a clear limit. So on the right-hand side, you see the two main methods now in the inspection centers, that are the USAMA and the Vogue system. These are the two main systems still in the PTIs, very old ones, and not suitable for new vehicles. What we propose? So we propose from EGEA a method called minimum phase shift. For the first time, the main manufacturers, equipment manufacturers in Europe, we have agreed on a common method. So we met all together for years, we wrote a specification, and it's an open specification. Everybody can access to this specification and can manufacture a suspension bench. And this, we have the advantage that this system has been used in Belgium since 2010. So it means that they already have tested millions of vehicles. It's a little bit technical, but this system is quite close to the old USAMA system, but with some improvements. And the advantage of this system is that it's less sensible mainly to the tire pressure, to the load of the vehicle, to the type of vehicle that were the main problems that we found were testing vehicles with the USAMA method. If you want after that, if you approach me, I can explain you more technically how it works, because it's a little bit complicated. So basically, very, very simple. We have a platform, as we have downstairs in many places here, suspension tester with a vibrating platform. But the difference is what we are not only measuring the force on the platform, but we are measuring also the position of the platform. With this force and this position, we are calculating the difference, the phase between both magnitudes. And with this phase, we calculate the minimum phase during all the tests, and we establish a limit, a common limit for all vehicles. This is the advantage of this method. We have a limit valid for all type of vehicles. So what we have here, the advantages, it's as quick as the old USAMA method, it's simple, it's straightforward, the pass or fail, we have a limit. We, together with efficiency, we can test other variables as the adhesion or difference or tire stiffness. And if it's true that the new European directive says that the suspension testing is essential, I think this is a good way forward to go for this method, because I think it's a very good method. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jordi. Modern cars are fully equipped with advanced driver assistance systems, and we know that new directive will introduce checking it in the PTI centers. but we need to think that and bear it in mind that PTI centers are not laboratories. The check should be quick and cheap. And how to do it? Let's listen our next speaker, Emiliano Pasin from AICA and EGEA. He will tell us about ADAS testing in PTI environment. Floor is yours.
Good afternoon. Okay, I would like only to give you some tips about ADAS in PTI, why we are testing ADAS in PTI. Starting from the first milestone put several years ago from the European legislator, and that is the regulation 2144 of 2019, in which the regulators request as mandatory the first ADAS system. Several different type of ADAS that it must be added to the new vehicle starting more or less from 2022 and 2024. The regulation requests that, for example, emergency lane keeping system, the advanced emergency braking, the intelligent speed device, driver downside warning, the event data recorder, and some other ADAS. And this is the first milestone. After that, there was the new regulation, the draft, in which the European Commission created the basis for introducing it also in PTI. And starting from when a solution will be ready. It's not easy to define now when and in which manner, because it will be a challenge for the company and also for the PTI center to establish the correct method to test all PTI. Yeah, which are the requests from PTI normative is adding at least a minimum set of check about the emergency braking, the lane assist, and at least about the speed assistance and the emergency braking signal. Probably because they are the most relative to the safety of the system, so it is really important to test them also during the periodic check of the vehicles. Of course, what does it mean to test the ADAS system? We are thinking about several things on a car. Checking an ADAS system, it means to make evaluation about sensors of the vehicles, actuators, also the mapping of the ECU, the processor that manage the ECU, and at the end also the algorithms that create the correct combination for activating the ADAS when we need them. So if it is not easy to define a common way to test the system, we can evidentiate at least some prerequisites, okay, that we can consider as the base of the ADAS evaluation. So it should be mandatory that for each injury or in case of the replacement of the sensor of the vehicles, related, of course, to the ADAS system, it will be mandatory, for example, to calibrate the ADAS system. And another possible common prerequisite for the ADAS checking is checking the alignment of the vehicles. These two prerequisites must be the basis of the future PTI testing for the ADAS. And now, in which manner? As I told you at the beginning, it's not easy. We have to find a common way and, if possible, a standardized way that for PTI center needs a short time, possible a correct cost to implement it. So we have to define a low basis money system to find the system to implement in PTI. It is feasible. Right now is under evaluating. There are several companies that have projects on this type of checking. Probably we need some other years to find a common way to find it, but the challenges is open for the company, and we hope that in the coming years we will find a common way to evaluate this type of system also in PTI. I think I concluded. I don't know if you have any question. Or... Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Emiliano. As we said, European Commission is willing to combat odometer frauds, but we can also think about combating the results of the PTIs, and maybe we can somehow connect the devices that are in the PTI centers. And we're waiting for our last speaker, which is Frank Beaujeaun, the CEO of ASA Network GmbH, ASA Verband President, and also Working Group 10 WorkshopNet Chairman at EGEA. Floor is yours.
Thank you. Is this the button?
Yeah, this is the button.
So, welcome everybody. Thank you for your interest, and thank you for having me in the show. So I want to give you an approach about interconnected PTI equipment. What does this mean? This is not new, because some member states already use interconnected PTI equipment, but many other countries in Europe do not. So I want to give you a general idea about interconnected equipment. I start with an introduction, about connected inspection equipment. Then I would introduce you a workflow. How could a PTI inspection look like with interconnected equipment? And then, of course, the effects on the PTI regime in the matter of quality. What does quality mean? Quality means, of course, that you really get exact results, number one. And the second one is, of course, manipulation. You should avoid manipulation, because number three, and this is the most important, we want to have safe vehicles on the road. And this is the most important for the lawmaker, the road safety. Okay? And this is the intention we also need to improve, that we keep this quality on a high level. So what can you connect? Of course, only intelligent equipment. You cannot communicate with a stone or with a rock. So you need a minimum of intelligence. This means kind of electronics. And this is all the PTI inspection we know, basically: side slip tester, brake testers, emission testing, OBD. We learned now also noise level meters will have a big future in Europe, and of course also the headlight testers. So all this have a microcontroller. When you have a microcontroller, we have sensor values, and then you can send these results. Okay? How do you communicate? Of course, we should use standards which are already existing. It makes no sense to think about a new way of communicating between two machines or whatever. So we use the platforms which are already existing. Of course, they are cheap because they are highly available and widely spread. And of course, when you consider a local area network on a server maybe, there are good protection tools, because we never should forget protection of our own network. It sounds so easy when we say we communicate to this direction, but maybe you don't feel it and you don't know it, but we are in the middle of a hybrid war with Russia, and they attack us on cybersecurity. So, and they will also attack the PTI regime, of course. Okay, we need to talk, so we need safe standards for cybersecurity, also for the PTI center, okay? And how do we reach this? For affordable price, these are standards like the local area network. Then the pivot point of PTI workflow is, of course, the central administration of the PTI organization. This is a piece of software. You can see it here on the right hand. So this is, I call it PTI productive system. Okay? This is a piece of software which administrates the complete PTI workflow. And the first step, and it's also in the matter of quality, that you check the correct vehicle. So you need to identify the vehicle. And how do you identify it? Yeah, by the registration papers. Here one from Italy. So in the registration papers, you have all the codes, all the national registration numbers and figures. And this is the first step of the digitalization. You need to put this into the PTI productive system. Okay, step number one. Why? Because when you identify the vehicle, you know the vehicle category. Is it a truck? Which truck? Is it a passenger car? Is it a bus? Is it a light bus? Is it a motorcycle? Whatsoever. Why? Because when we know the category, we know the inspection procedure. Because we have different procedures for different vehicle categories. So identification is very important. Also, we know maybe different pass-fail criteria. Also very important. And, of course, involve the limit values. So when you start the workflow, you entered the vehicle data, and then you send the PTI order. So I have a customer, I need to do a PTI, and now I enter it into my system, in my administrative system, and will send this order information and the vehicle information to all the PTI equipment. So interconnected equipment does not mean I just send results. I also receive something. I have to do something. I have to do a job. This is the order information. And I receive the vehicle information. And this is validated vehicle information. Okay? This means I have no double entry at each single PTI equipment. This information from the vehicle is already at the vehicle, and I don't need to re-enter it manually. It makes no sense. It's a waste of time to enter this information at the equipment again and again and again. And when human beings are entering data, you enter wrong data by mistake. So you avoid mistakes if you transfer registration information from the vehicle directly to the PTI equipment. And of course, you do the PTI job, you do the emission testing, the noise level testing, and so on and so on. And then there comes the idea from the European lawmaker, yes, you have results, inspection results. And what are you doing with these results? Of course, you send them back. Not on paper, not on entering the data at the productive system, not entering the results. So what do you send back? You send back the measured values and the criteria, pass-fail criteria. The machine decides. It's not a decision by the human being, by the inspector, it's a decision by machine. Okay? And this is sent back. And how may we improve the quality, I just mentioned, of the PTI regime? Step number one is that the inspection operator has no chance to change any data at the equipment. Okay? It's sent there, it cannot do anything anymore, it just starts the equipment is doing the test, has no change. Also, when the results are there from the equipment, there's no change to change some data for any reason. Okay? Not possible. The second improvement is, of course, when you also encrypt the communication itself. So even when you're listening to the communication, you cannot change the information during the communication transfer. And last but not least, of course, also the operator in the office should be not able to change any data. Again, the machine takes the decision. And the complete process is digitalized. There's no way for any human being or for any terrorist or for anybody who wants to manipulate to enter into the system. How can we also improve the quality by using of digital workflows? You can add additional data points to the result data. For example, the type approval number of the inspection equipment. Because in each country of Europe, when you want to use equipment for PTI, you need to be homologated by the lawmaker. Why? To ensure correct measurement. So the equipment must be useful for PTI. And each homologated equipment has a certificate and a certificate number. We call this the type approval number. So we can send from each used PTI equipment also the type approval number that we prove that this is really good equipment we used. On top of that, we can send also the serial number of this equipment, that we exactly know that this result is coming from this brake tester or that emission tester. So the lawmaker can follow up. On the top of this, we all know it's good to have a measurement tool, but you need to recalibrate it from time to time, that we really know that it's still measuring correctly. We call this calibration, and this must be done in some European countries every 12 months, in other up 24 months, 36 months, but in certain periods, you must recalibrate your PTI equipment to ensure correct measurement. And for each individual PTI equipment, there is an individual calibration certificate, and you can send also the calibration certificate. So you don't just prove that the equipment is good enough to do the job, I also prove the measurement values are correct. It's very important. Why? Because the machine decides. And when the machine decides if your car is out of service, then we need to be sure that the measurement values are correct. And this is granted by frequent calibration. Okay? So we send also. And then we have some countries that make a lot of money with PTI, and the inspection times are less than 5 minutes. You cannot inspect a car with all this within 5 minutes. So the machine can record the start time and the end time of each PTI job, and then we can see, does it make sense or does it make no sense when you make an emission test in 30 seconds. Okay, so this is also a data point which improves the quality of the PTI regime. And on top of that, you can use cameras. Some countries already use cameras for the benefit of the quality. You can integrate it into the test lane, and the minimum, the camera should read the number plate to be really sure that the number plate in my registration papers is exactly the same number plate what I have seen on the camera. On the top, you can also check the car model, if it makes sense, and the color, and so on. So there's a wide range. The cameras are very good in the meanwhile. But you also send, with the results, you send the pictures of the PTI as a proof of the job. Okay, and this increases the quality. And last but not least, I want to highlight that interconnection enables also interoperability with national data repositories, more and more to improve the quality and to collect statistic data. We have servers from the government or from the PTI authorizations in the World Wide Web. And also there, all this information, which is available digitally, may be sent into the national data repositories. And also here, we need to talk about data safety. I made the dashed line. So not every equipment send the data directly to the national data repository, because you need to grant cybersecurity. Remember, hybrid war, okay? It must be a safe environment. So you have one communication point in the inspection center, which is the PTI productive administration application, and they are in interaction with the government server. Mille grazie for your attention. Have a good afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Frank. Now, having in mind all the presentations, I prepared some questions to the speakers. I will start with Pete. The topic of our event is future of PTI in Europe. But I've got the impression that when we talk about PTIs, we are not talking about future. We are not talking even about here and now, but we are talking about the past, because we already drive for a long time cars with ADAS systems, with particle filters and so on. So what will be the challenges for the future for the PTI centers, not having in mind the proposals, but maybe software-defined vehicles? What will be changed with the technological progress?
Okay. Good question, actually. The change for the PTI inspected centres is going to be that they're going to have to be a lot more intrusive in the vehicle. So they'll be looking at more data points and looking at more, you saw when I was presenting about the software changes. So they're going to have access to all of that information to make sure that the software on the vehicle is up to date. Marcin just mentioned the software-defined vehicle. That's a game changer. It's already in place. High-powered computers are running these vehicles now. So going forward, it's going to get more complex. But don't forget, we've got all of these vehicles still on the road today. So that's why I was mentioning that the amount of time for a PTI and the cost for a PTI will depend on the complexity of the vehicle. So even I think the average age in Europe now is running towards 11.5 years. In the US, I think it's 14 years. So people are trying to keep their vehicles longer because a lot of people don't trust the technology. But that will obviously change. So going forward, the PTI inspectors are going to have to, or the PTI organizations are going to have to deal with a lot more sophisticated equipment to test those new vehicles and the older equipment. So you could see a test center going to have a lot of equipment and not knowing what's going to roll through the door for the next vehicle to be inspected. And then you add on older than 10 years every year, so that increases the volume of the inspections. And obviously then you've got the amount of vehicles on the road at the moment. So the frequency, I think, is 3 and 1. So 3-year-old vehicle, first inspection at 3 years, and then every 1 or 2 years after that. So the amount of inspections is going to increase. And as I said, that's all due to making sure that we've got safe vehicles on the road, which is coupled with ADAS, which prevents collisions. So the whole ball game, if you like, is geared towards fewer accidents, fewer deaths on the roads, and people driving safely.
Thank you. Now, George, it's your turn. You told us about a few successful implementations in Belgium, in Germany, and Switzerland, but they have different thresholds. what do you think, which one is the most appropriate approach? Belgian one, German, Switzerland?
No, I guess it's a political issue. It's not only a technical one. I mean, when we have started the PN testing in Belgium, it was a foggy issue in terms of impact, in terms of what would be the failure rate behind that. So the politician people, they were first considering 250K. But then they have been a bit afraid and they said, hang on, we want to raise the bar first up to 1 million and we will see. And I guess they were right. Because what we saw, especially with the old type of vehicle, I mean, because they were considering Euro 5A, 5B, 6, and so on. And the old 5A, they were really in trouble. It was a matter of 20% sometimes. So basically, it's a social issue either. It was also a fact that we were missing spare parts. It was first scheduled the fact that we were supposed to fix the car in 1 month, but because of the missing parts, they said, oh, okay, hang on. We will delay that by 3 months and then 1 year. So we have a huge impact. It makes sense to consider the global picture. After 2 years now, we are able to see that the car park is improving. The failure rate is dropping a bit. So basically, this is exactly what we want to achieve, a very, I would say, a good car park. But we can't turn everything with a magic stick from day one, okay? So I guess now, when I had a talk with Belgian people, they said if we will have to do the same, we will redo the same. After 2 or 3 years, anyhow, they want to reconsider this threshold. And with the new directive in production, I guess they will use this opportunity to drop down to the same level we are dealing with in Germany. And I'm also aware about some country like, for instance, Greece. They have a very old car park due to the crisis they had in the last years. So again, it would make sense to consider the appropriate level. And the goal is to improve the car park, not to disturb the car driver and the car owner.
Okay, of course. Thank you very much. Lauretta, you told us that it's important to measure PN counters, also in petrol engines. But the question is, do we need another device? Or we can use the same device? And if the procedure differs from diesel or petrol engine?
Yes, thank you for the question. I think it's a very important one. As I show you, yes, definitely we need to take care of the petrol engines and the nanoparticle emissions from those. Actually, in the market, there are already devices, both diffusion charging based and also CBC based, that they can measure both diesel and gasoline exhaust. The main difference with the gasoline exhaust, of course, you have you have to take care of the water, and there are already some devices that they have already an heating part, or you can heat and dilute. So I think it's not really a big issue, and you have already companies that have on the market instrumentation that are immediately available to also push NPTI for the petrol engines. So I don't see it as a main issue and challenge for the future of PTI in Europe. So this is what I can say. If I can comment also on what George said, of course, We need more harmonization in Europe. We cannot have, differences between Germany, Switzerland, Belgium and the Netherlands, not just as a pass-fail criteria, but also in terms of how we do and perform the test protocol. Because in Germany, of course, you have conditioning that you don't have in other countries, and I would say that definitely harmonization is a priority if we really want to push NPTI in all countries. That's what I want to say.
Okay, thank you very much. Jordi, my next question is to you. You talked about ISO standards and about talking about brake testing and with phase shift suspension testing. But what will be the impact for the industry, for the PTI sensors? Do we need new devices or only software update to introduce it?
Thank you. Good question. Regarding brake testers, the new technique I have explained, we don't need new devices. It's a standard brake tester. The only thing that we'll need is the software update and communication with the vehicle in order to get the reference forces in real time. So at the end, it's the same brake tester we have already, the PTI. In relation to the suspension testing, it's a new device. But this is very similar to the existing Osama machines. Normally, the old systems can be upgraded to the new system. So, of course, we'll have to add some sensors or install inverters, but at the end will be the same machine with an upgrade. So it's not going to be a big investment for PTIs.
So the implementation will be cost effective at the end of the day?
I hope so, yeah.
Thank you very much. Emiliano, we know that we need to check ADAS. Do you have already a solution that is most appropriate for the PTI centers? Do they have to equip with dyno or any other devices?
Thank you for the question. It's not easy to reply. We have seen some different type of prototypes on the presentation. Someone requests a dyno system, some other request a system to evaluate the camera with the visualization system. Dyno, I don't think it will be the probably solution due to the cost, in particular, of the system. So it is necessary, as I mentioned before, to find a common system that will reduce as lower as possible the cost. And starting from the dyno, it is quite difficult. So new challenges for the companies to find the right compromise between cost and time. I think we will see some new technologies in the coming years about this type of testing.
Thank you very much. And George wants to comment? It works.
Yeah. Baba. Okay. Anyhow, I guess it makes sense to consider EPTI. We have worked on that standard during the last 6-7 years. Yeah. Now it's a question of regulation. I mean, directive has to call such kind of directive regulation regarding the vehicle design first, and then we will wait vehicle with such kind of implementation in order to be ready to do something.
Yeah. I think that EPTI, it could be one of the solution. Of course, it needs time to be implemented because it must be requested as mandatory from type approval and after several years to become in force. It could be a solution if we see from the point of view of the PTI company, it will be not the correct one, because in that case we will trust probably on the vehicle manufacturer. And as you know, from PTI is PT, so. But it could be, probably it would be the easy one and with the cost, with a limited cost on the system.
Last comment from...
yeah, just a comment to that as well. There is a move, or an idea, which is quite a good idea actually. We have emission monitors which flag up emission faults. So why don't we just have ADAS monitors that flag up ADAS faults, which means that the manufacturer would have to provide more data. My point about this is bad emissions will harm people over 10 years. A bad ADAS system will harm people in seconds. So perhaps we're not putting the right emphasis on what we should be looking at in PTI.
The last question is to Frank concerning digitalization, because Commission wants to exchange data between member states, data concerning odometers and the results of PTIs, but can we also exchange the measurements from the devices in particular country? Because this directive will give the power to the PTI centers across Europe to check the car that's not registered in this country. It will be valid for half a year, but maybe in the future we can, for example, have car registered in Poland and do the PTI in Germany. But I think that talking about prices, it will be in a different way, that Germans will go to Poland, check the cars, but we can, using your solution, we can exchange the results.
So if you don't do that, then we are most stupid, okay? So when we start, it makes no sense just to send a picture of the protocol, because from a picture you cannot read by machine the content, not really, okay? So what you need to send is, what you send is the semantics, this is an expression from the computation engineering, what is the meaning of this data point? So we need to send the data points and the meaning of the data point, and even more, these are the units. So when we measure something in temperature, in Fahrenheit or Celsius or whatever, so to keep it simple, so when we do it, we should send the semantics of the test results. This means also the measurement values.
Thank you very much. So, dear speakers, thank you very much for your contributions. It seems that we'll be occupied for a long time. Will be consultations between member states and parliament, and then implementation period, a lot of work for working groups, a lot of work for industry, and as George said, it seems that the future of PTI is in bright colors for us, for the test equipment providers. Thank you very much, and thank you, audience, for participating.